What's up? It's Taco Bacon, EST, Side Dragon. How are you? Welcome everybody on TikTok and YouTube. I don't know what platform that is. YouTube and X and Twitch. I'm streaming from a hotel. I don't know. How are you, Anna? I don't know if it's going to be any good quality, but you tell me. Hopefully it's not going to be too jumpy. Looks pretty good so far. Hopefully there's not going to be too many delays because I'm going to have to be streaming from here for at least a week. Neoman is asking if I read Bernardo's new book. No, I have not yet. What is it about? What is its name? I can look it up. How are you, Ambient Glass? Good to see you. Okay. Yeah, tonight arrived kind of late. Had to arrange everything in the hotel. Going to be in Vegas for an event for a week. So I'm going to have to be streaming from this hotel. And luckily, it seems like reception is pretty good. Hopefully, it'll stay that way. Welcome, everybody, to Simulation Talk 107, the channel that usually revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. A few years ago, I've discovered that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and ingest a particular molecule that I cannot really name on a live chat, you will see code running in surfaces, and this has now been verified over 1,000 times worldwide and put me in an interesting discussion with some of the leading researchers in the field. To anybody who's new to the channel, we discuss not just the experiment and the implications, we also discuss science in general, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind, and we meet here every single day. Somebody's asking for my opinion on the Rizzler. I don't even know what that is, so if you want to specify, I can tell you what I think. Okay, let's see what we got here. So what is that book about, Newman? Let's see if I can do this in real time. Thank you so much for the likes, guys. Appreciate you. If you can do the same on YouTube and Twitch and X, it definitely helps the algorithm. And to all the people on TikTok that wants to see, Analytical Idealism in a Nutshell. Looks interesting. I might read it. Put it on my reading list. If you want to watch my videos as you see here on TikTok in a longer form, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. And you have the longer versions of the videos that you see here on TikTok. Or you can just follow the link tree in my description. We're also working on a film regarding the discovery, and hopefully within 7 or 8 months we should have the film ready to go. And I think, yeah, what else do I need to announce? Oh, just to mention that I've started my membership program on YouTube, and we already have a few people that sign up, which is awesome. I appreciate you guys. It's going to include private Zoom meetings with me, as well as private chats outside of my daily chats. And I'm working on some other things aside from obviously content. It's going to be available only on for members and not for other people. This will allow me to focus on these projects more full time. I do appreciate the members that already joined. And until a lot more people will join, we have some private conversations, essentially. And my mom is back in the house. How are you, Olga? Good to see you, Mom. It's kind of weird to call my mom by her name, but I felt obligated. Thank you, Peculiar. Appreciate the gift. Oh, and it also sent love to YouTube. That's amazing. I didn't see that one before. Okay. Let's see what we got as questions. What do I think about Gnostic texts? And could the molecule entities be the archons? I don't know enough about the archons to say that. I think the molecule is just a gate opener. So I think basically all the civilizations you can possibly encounter, you can potentially encounter. I'm not sure that I want to name any specific things because there's a lot of different kinds that can appear for you in that space. As far as I understand the Gnostic teachings, we're essentially trying to transcend this world. I'm not really sure that this idea of negating the current state is something that I necessarily align with. I understand the kind of the idea behind it, but I think that I'm much more a Buddhist in my approach. So accepting exactly where you are, this falling in love with the mundane, so to speak, I think that's the only true way out. It's a new defense, mostly of his work, but pretty good. Okay, thank you so much, Newman, for the suggestion. I'm definitely going to check it out. Also, to all the people who are joining. Oi! No, it's not what I wanted to do. Okay. To all the people who are joining on YouTube and X and Twitch, I'm going to put on... Actually, I don't know if you can see this on X, but codeofreality.com. That's the website in case you want to find out anything regarding the experimentation. Toltec Seer is saying having kids and raising a family is another way out and very deep experience. I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure it's a way out. I think it actually tethers you to this world more. I am very excited to start a family of my own soon, but from my meditative practices, it's pretty clear to me that there's just another attachment in this world. There's nothing wrong with it, but I would say it's the opposite of releasing you from this world. Depending on, of course, what you mean by freedom. What I mean by freedom is being completely free. So nirvana. In that sense, any type of connection to the form would be basically another anchor, something that basically attaches you to the physical world. Mark is asking or saying, "Hi Dan, what do you think about the molecule being released during sleep, particularly during theta dominant states, which could be replicated with chanting or binaural beats?" So the truth is, Mark, that I think that what John Dean is onto is very interesting because he did an experiment a few years ago with, I can never recall if it was mice or rats, but one of them. And he discovered that during waking time, they have the same comparable amounts of dimethyltryptamine in their intracranial liquid to dopamine and serotonin. There's strong reasons to believe the same is happening to humans. In other words, to think that the molecule responsible for just dreams would be pretty arbitrary because it seems like it's mediating experience in general. So there's no trace amounts in our system in any given time during waking hours. There's actually very substantial amounts, which leads him to believe that probably this is one of these things it's one of these things that's responsible for content generation itself. I think dreams, if anything, I would expect less of the molecule to be produced because they're less real or they're less kind of insistent on what they are. Now, this, of course, has a lot to do with the fact that some systems are down and you're not, your senses are not inhibiting this system, so there's less computation that needs to happen. But that's another reason why you need less computational power. And if you equate the amount of the molecule in your, at least intracranial liquid, to the amount of computation that your brain is capable of doing of content itself, then actually you would expect less of the molecule in that sense. No, a way out of a spiritual ego. I understand what you're saying, Toltec, so I would agree that probably there's a reduction in ego, especially when you have kids. I think there's also strong evolutionary reasons for that, because if you're too bravado and too identified with the self, you have less diffusion and less attention on other human beings, and because you, as a father, you do need more attention on other human beings. I think there's a reason for that. So I agree with you that it definitely reduces the ego. Probably, I've noticed this in my friends. Um, but if we're talking about complete freedom, then I think it's doing the opposite. It's a selfless act, which is the only thing worth doing. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I mean, you mean it's a selfless act to raise a family, right? You mean like to have kids to. So in that sense, I understand what you're saying. I do think that you're getting a lot out of it, though, right? You get a deep sense of meaning. The fact that you get to take care of somebody else, it gives you an immediate feedback loop of fulfillment. The truth is that no human ever did or does or ever will do anything that is not selfish. It just doesn't exist. So even if you're the most altruistic person in the world, ultimately you're acting because it makes you feel a certain way. Given there are certain tasks that are devoted to helping others that are much more, I guess, noteworthy and what we would call noble, because you essentially sacrifice your immediate pleasure for a gain that is not just on the surface yours, but the truth is that at bottom, you're still doing it because it makes you feel a certain way. And that feeling actually is much more long lasting. So, if anything, it's even more selfish. Now, of course, we don't think about it in that sense, but actually, Buddhistic practices teach you that, and you kind of realize this, that ultimately we're all selfish. Like, you're not doing anything for anyone else ever. And that's the truth. And it's maybe in the beginning an uncomfortable truth, but even when you feel like you're sacrificing, you're doing it because you're getting some kind of a thing out of it. Somehow it makes you feel something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. And yeah, I would agree that love is freedom for sure. But again, I think these concepts are, in the end of the day, all of these are frameworks to think about things. And even there, if you really want to kind of break it down, it really depends on what you mean by love. You mean like universal love, or you just kind of float free of, you just want to exist and you emanate and feel this ultimate love? Yeah, I would say yes, but again, depending on because we've never ourselves occupied these states for long periods of time. Like none of us here, at least I think, experienced nirvana more than maybe a few seconds, if ever. Or so I think the truth is that it's kind of hard to talk about it, right? But at least according to what you read and what you understand about these practices, nirvana is not love. It transcends love. So love is still content of some sort. Nirvana is essentially a state of like you basically dissolve into non-being, right? There's no more connection to any kind of anything. It transcends all realms and it transcends any kind of content, I would say. And this is why I feel that the only relevance that all of these frameworks have is, do they help you move closer to this ultimate freedom, right? Do they get you closer towards some kind of a universal freedom? Otherwise, it's just mental entertainment, and that's absolutely fine. It's wonderful and pleasurable, but I think calling things what they are is important if we want to be truthful. What is the Aya stuff? It's what people are referring to as ayahuasca. That's essentially a brew that they brew in different places in South America, in which the active ingredient is the spirit molecule, and it lasts a lot longer. And it has it. I always call it the human dimension. It's essentially what the channel we connect that knows everything about being a human, and so it teaches you a lot about the state of being a human. But I mean, if you Google or watch like special documentaries about it, it will be much more informative. Promise you, if you had a family of your own, you would rethink that stance. I mean, I would submit to you that there are states that you can actually occupy that make you see things clearer than having the experience of having a family. I have a lot of friends, that have kids at this point. Some of them have grown up kids. My sister has kids. I'm watching the process. I understand that there's no way I can know the connection without having the kids. But I do understand, because I've had these experiences, that any experience here in the physical that is connected to another human or connected to another content, by definition, it it holds you here by default. So I'm sure that there's a lot of components there that are very, expansive, but everything expressed here, they're essentially universal truths. They're not really, it's just by the way that they're arranged. So if you, depending on what you mean by each and one of these terms, as long as they're content based, they are not on the same level of what is proposed, the state that's called nirvana, right? So that's definitely not it. Anything beneath that is content, no matter how blissful, no matter how amazing. That's in the ultimate scale of things. In the more earthbound realm, I agree with you that having a family brings a lot of benefits because it grounds you. It makes you understand certain universal things about being a human that are very important to understand. I do agree that I think that you're not, maybe a complete human is the wrong term to say that you're not a complete human, but you have not experienced the full true spectrum of what it's like to be alive. I do agree with that. So by no means am I degrading or saying that having a family is not good and great. And I'm excited to have my own soon. But I do think that we have to be truthful and we have to be honest, and we also have to be humble. So it sounds like you expressing a position. It sounds like you're completely convinced, and you're not allowing that there's maybe something that you don't quite know or understand. That's all I can say on the subject. Okay. What do you think about Gnostic? Oh, we read this. Okay. How many dimensions are there? I have no idea. Probably infinite. Family treats many lessons and helps with the opportunity to break generational cycles. Yeah, but it also creates a lot of traumas for a lot of people, right? So family is not automatically necessitate some kind of an optimal state. If anything, it makes things very messy sometimes. This is easily demonstrated by the fact that one of the most difficult things for people is to go back to spend some time with the family. For the holidays. I don't know why my phone is getting stuck here. Okay, perfect. So yeah. The one who proposes theory of digital brain calibration, good and the wrong, hence control our ego. Not sure what that means, sorry. Do you believe in the soul trap? I don't believe in any trap. I believe we are our own masters, and your actions completely decide the fate that you see. Let's see. Can using the molecule multiple times daily start to affect you mentally long term? I have a friend who I believe is overdoing it, and I feel she's starting to get a little lost. Great question, Miss Jamie. It seems that, at least from clinical studies, and also I can tell you from my own experience, the molecule all by itself can't really do much because every time you do it, it's very short lived. But of course, it's possible. But something tells me that it's not all she's doing. And funny enough, and of course, I don't know anything about your friend, but usually the things that people combine with it include sometimes, how should we call it, weed? And that's actually the greatest offender when it comes to this kind of stuff, like mental destabilization. It's the thing that can cause psychosis. It's the thing that can actually exacerbate some mental disorders. And it's known to be doing that. The other one is we can't name molecules here just because the chat might be flagged. But the other one is what Hoffman discovered originally. But the molecule, not, I would say it can't really do much all by itself. It's just too short-lived every time. Now, of course, there can be outliers, or maybe she already had a predispensation. Would you like to tell me how do you feel that her behavior departs from what you feel is healthy? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see your comments, Soltec, but I mean, that's all I can say on the subject. I mean, this is not, I'm not sure that I'm trying to go down the rabbit hole of, going back and forth on this. I said what I think is valuable beyond this point. It's kind of, I don't know where we're going with this. I guess the only thing I can ask you is, why does this matter to you as much? There you go. They just flagged us on TikTok. I'm not sure why. Probably because we said very strange. They don't tell you why either. It's so bizarre. So I guess what I can ask you is, Toltec, why does this matter to you so much? Like, what is it in it that it's the point that you want to push more than anything else? The family point. I think that's a much more relevant question for me. Microtubule, oh my God, I can't pronounce it. Tubules. The Om chant can activate your microtubule things about a love for UAP contact. I don't know. Maybe. I went down the path of the Carlos Castaneda teachings for many, many years and found having a family was much more powerful. Take that as you will. Sure. I'm not really referring to anything from the point of Carlos Castaneda. I'm just speaking from experience. There's certain states that you can occupy, that you can understand certain things pretty conclusively. And if your question to me is, well, how do you know that that is the conclusive thing? When my question to you is the same. How do you know that the family thing is more conclusive? It's your experience of it, right? My experience of it is different. Just like I don't have kids yet, and you do, it sounds like. I don't know if you had the states that I've occupied, so we can't really compare. So my question to you is, oh, that was the answer to me from what I asked about why it matters to you. That's wonderful. You should follow that path. That's all I can say. You're probably aware of the resemblance of the code to the Carrot project symbols. Have you seen them? Yeah, it's very, very similar to that. All you need to see the simulation is okay. Yeah, I don't do DMs, Jesse. You can always email me. lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Danny's in the house. Why don't we just simply say that yes, everything is risky, including the most useful things? Yeah, it sounds reasonable to me to say that. You'll find out when you have a family. Maybe, or maybe one day you'll find out what I said. That makes perfect sense. She definitely uses other substances. Her journey have become dark. That is a change I've noticed. So most likely it is not coming from the molecule, just so you know. It is unfortunate, but usually people mix it with a lot of other things. The molecule all by itself, if anything, it will guide you towards the understanding that there's so much more and it's so bizarre and it's much more than you could possibly entertain. And I think that humbles you, hopefully. But maybe to have a conversation with her that actually the other things might be, all of these things are energies and they want to take your attention. It's not a bad thing. It's just like people and just like anything that is alive, they want to occupy space and time. That's natural. So the question is, what kind of a relationship you're building with each one of these energies. And if the energy is starting to take over what you think is important, then now you're losing your agency and you're losing your expression in this world. That might be a useful way to have this conversation. Have I seen any of the Jike stuff on the simulation and AIX Jason Brish? No, I have not. I already found out what you said in my is my point. I've been psychonaut for 30 plus years. Yeah, so again, I can't know, of course, Toltec, your exact life's experiences, and I'm not comparing yours with mine. All I can tell you from the most objective perspective I can possibly take, which includes both your worldview and mine, is that, and I understand what you're saying about being a psychonaut for 30 years. It's the same for me. I started since I was like 11, and I'm almost 42 now, so about 30 years. Um, a lot of the experiences on different substances uh, don't really map or compare, in my opinion, to anything that we do in the more contemplative and meditative space. Some people would disagree with that. I don't know what they're talking about. For example, the molecule does not feel spiritual to me ever. I'm not really sure where people imported this from. I think it's people's biases overlaid on top of what they think the molecule is doing, and they're basically just like overlaying their biases on top of it. That's my opinion. There is the other molecule, the other spirit molecule that allows you to dissolve into, kind of like being one with God. That, I guess, would be quantified for something a little bit more spiritual. But something tells me that, like, if you actually go deeper into the practices, like you truly meditate on a regular basis, you take the practice seriously, you do retreats, you really go deep, right? You really put in the work. I think if you do that, you start to understand that there's maybe some Venn diagrams where they overlap, but they really are very different things, and I think they're different trajectories. I don't think that psychedelics can lead you to freedom. That's my opinion. I don't think they can ever do that. They're all content. I think the only way to get truly out is to actually practice different forms of meditation, discover for yourself what works, learn how to navigate the mind in a better way. Maybe you've done all of this. I don't know. The point is that each and every one of us have our own trajectory. It sounds like you're putting whatever your experience was, and you have an idea that that experience must be the only and best way. So that, I would say, on the surface of it, can't possibly be true, because we all have some different experiences in life and different ways. That's all I'm saying. But everything else, is up for grabs, and time will tell. Let me ask you this: have you had extended headspace where you live life with zero emotion? Depend again. These words mean very little when you don't put them in context. Do you mean zero attachment, or do you mean zero emotion? Do you mean that you live in a state where you just don't care, you're completely indifferent to everything that's going on, or you're not attached, which is different because you still feel emotions, but you can separate yourself from these emotions and you kind of float free. There's a lot of nuances here. Maybe I'm misreading your text, but it sounds a little bit to me right now like you're evangelizing a particular way of being and doing things. If I'm misunderstanding you, by all means, but I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to find a place to stand where most people can take something from, versus to say, here's the thing, here's the way, because I think that is essentially it is not what I'm mostly interested in. Let me say a few comments from TikTok. Thank you, Paul. Beolf. I know you told me before how to read this, and now I'm failing again. Be Beolf VR, right? No, no. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Um, oh, it doesn't look. Yeah, and also I feel like I don't know if they killed this. They created these restrictions. I don't know why. Restricted result because your life does not comply with the. under community guidelines, discussing drugs, others. Yeah, there you go. We can't say the names of molecules. It is so annoying. At least they tell you now. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Well, I guess we can't say these words. And that went for our listeners. It's crazy. TikTok is out of control. Toltec is saying, when I close my eyes, I immediately see 4 lines crisscrossing with a dot in the center. Those lines bend towards me, creating a tunnel that is lined with fractals, colors you can't see on Earth. I really, and then I travel down the tunnel during meditation. Is that what you are talking about? No, that's not what I'm talking about. Zero attachment with zero emotion. No, zero attachment is not the same as zero emotion. You can feel the emotion and you can detach from the emotion. That's I guess the state that you can occupy is non-attachment. Non-attachment does not mean that you eliminate thoughts or emotion. And I agree with Danny. I do not think that zero attachment leads to zero emotion. No, both at the same time. I understand. So, again, the conversation has to be something a little bit more concrete, because when you're asking a question without the stated goal, then we're kind of fumbling in the dark, right? So I'm always down to have these interesting conversations, even if we disagree. I just want to know where you're coming from and what is really important to you, because that's the only way that we're going to make progress. I've experienced no emotions, of course. I've experienced attachment, non-attachment, and again, I don't know what. Yeah, of course. I mean, you live long enough, you experience these things even without any meditation or psychedelics. But in general, I would say that no, the stuff that you just described with the points and all that stuff, again, that's content. So I don't know if maybe I'm not clear enough, but that is content. So imagine a space with no real content, nothing solidifies into anything, but you are experiencing still. That's also what makes it clear to me that it's possible to exist in a state where there's no any input of any kind, and yet you would still experience something. It might not be a thing in the way that we understand it, but it will be. Now it's getting super esoteric, and also I'm not really sure how it's relevant to benefit anybody, because all of these words, they might create some interest, and if it creates enough interest for people to practice these things, then I think it's good. But overall, if anything, they create more confusion. I think that I highly recommend people try either Vipassana or some other form of meditation that they feel really sits well with them. But I do mean like actually practice, not like sit and close your eyes, or even listening to an app at home is not enough. Like I would say, you have to go and you have to put yourself out there. You have to put in the work. Again, I'm not talking to you specifically because maybe you have. I'm just speaking in general about what I think is valuable and what I would love to encourage people to do. What other platforms I'm streaming on? Streaming also on YouTube, X, and Twitch. Yeah, TikTok is a little bit, very, very careful. Like, you can't say certain words, and like, I don't know if it was Aya or that I said the full name, but I can't really, can't do anything about that. But they just flag you. It's so crazy. I don't remember the last time we had like 7 people in the chat. So crazy. But YouTube is Dango Thoughts. DANGO Thoughts. QWiggy is saying, hello, friend. I would love to tell you my molecule experience. You're right. We are in a computer. I agree. Have you heard of Billy Carson? He was talking about the book. Billy Carson? Sounds familiar. Oh. Yeah, man. Listen, I think I blocked him from my brain. Yeah, Billy Carson is definitely a con artist. I don't know what how people miss stuff, but like that's just like right on the surface. It's not even a matter of opinion. That's just a fact. Um, I went through many months in that headspace and found zero suffering except one thing: loneliness. Well, loneliness is still suffering, right? Have you connected to the Akashic records? I think what we see in the code is actually the Akashic records. I'm done freaking out. Doesn't mean this place isn't really real, but we need to grow and love and learn to live together. That seems to be the entire point of this. Yeah. And by the way, the word simulation does not mean not real. People associate it automatically with something like that, but it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that it's computationally rendered. And that is the case. But it's not real. As long as there's any being experiencing something, it's real. Thank you, Eric. Well, we still have some way to go, but yeah, I appreciate it. What records is it that you see the code? What do you mean by records? My brain produces too much molecules, so I can already see some things. Interesting. Yeah, I have a lot of people that actually email me that they see some extra content on a regular basis. It seems like there's a lot more people than people realize they're experiencing these kind of things. Are we not trying to figure out the simulation from the perspective of simulation? How does that work? Trying to understand your question. So you're saying not trying to figure out the simulation from the perspective of the simulation. How does that work? I'm not sure if you can clarify. I don't understand the question. Regardless of how you get there, once you see the matrix, look into the numbers and symbols themselves, you'll see the truth. Maybe. I'm not so sure it's that straightforward. I thought you just said in response to a question that you see some type of records in it. No, not records. You see a lot of code, what seems to be code or language, but I don't think you can, at the moment at least, there's no way to, decipher what it actually is because there's too many, there's just too much going on at any given time, and it's really difficult to make up anything. But you can make out that something is out there. That's for sure. So that's what I meant. Did you check if those letters that you saw were written inside the laser machinery? When you move the laser, the code is not moving with the laser. So it seems to be in the surface, not in the light. It's possible that it functions in a holographic way, which will produce a similar effect. However, that would mean that then the code must be real, because in a hologram, you actually have to code the information of a real object first onto some kind of a film, and then that content is what you see as the hologram. So either way, what you see is real and it exists on its own side, so to speak. Billy was talking in code like you. Yeah, so what? A lot of people saying code. Billy just saying whatever will get him views. What do you mean? Billy doesn't know anything. Billy literally knows nothing. Like he does not understand the first thing about the anything that he's talking about. How I got to Joe Rogan is just like, I mean, at that point I was like, Joe, come on, man, this is crazy. Like Terrence Howard, okay, is an interesting guy aside from the fact that he's speaking a lot of crazy stuff. But Billy Carson is like, come on, man, that's just insanity. The guy is like if you listen to him for 2 seconds, any subject that anybody knows something about, You listen to him talk for more than 30 seconds, you realize that he never read a book. I'm willing to put money that he never read a book in his life, not one. He's basically regurgitating a lot of YouTube videos. He's taking very basic information that you heard on a YouTube video, regurgitating it in a way that it kind of strings everything together. He knows what the memes online are, so he's a really good marketer. But that's about it. He understands basically nothing, and every single word that he speaks on any subject demonstrates this. So how he knew about the code? What are you talking about? The word code? Like, I mean, the idea of the Matrix has been around forever, not way before the movie. He's not just a fraud. He's literally a con artist. He's sending flip flops on his website that are grounding flip flops for $60. They're grounding flip flops. Come on. Jesse's saying, Danny, I'm still coming to grips with this. The main point of this is love. I'm still left with the feeling that we are here for a purpose. I initially thought this information would destroy me. You mean the information about the Matrix, like the simulation, or the information about the love? Hypothesis can be disproven. I don't know what this is referring to in being glass. Sorry. But now I see the point of the game, and everyone knows deep down what love is. Yeah, I would agree with that. Science, yeah. Science has nothing to do with Billy Carson, though. Activation? Is that who he is? Somebody is on TikTok. Somebody on TikTok is asking the activation guy. Is that who he is? Is that what he's known for? There's no need for purpose, just existing is enough. I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think existing is ultimately. I think this point is running old because I've said it many, many times, but it might be worth mentioning it here. I always say that if you can't enjoy this, just this. By the way, no content edit, nothing else. No other people, no something to watch, no something to eat. The more you can just be happy as you are right now, like right here, the more the chances are you're going to be able to just be happy in general. Because if you can't be happy here, it doesn't matter how many dimensions you're going to add, it doesn't matter how many colors or incredible content you're going to experience. Eventually, your decision making machinery will make you unhappy again because that's a choice. So I agree with what you just said. The real Kelly Brook. What if people said what about me? People can say whatever they want about me. I know what I am, and I can hold my position. I can explain why. I don't really care that much about what people say about me. If I do what Billy Carson does and just basically, he knows that he's doing this for sure, right? So I would just be taking a bunch of videos from YouTube telling you that I read a book when I didn't, so I'm lying to you, right? So if I be doing this on a regular basis, I think I would actually understand if people say that about me. I don't think he cares, right? I'm operating from a very different place, and I'm sure that there's instances in which I'm doing things that people don't like, and also we're all humans, and we're all trying to do our best to be our best versions as much as we possibly can. So I'm always trying to be better with what I'm doing, but that's all you can do. You can't really control what people say, and I'm sure that at some point, when this message gets big enough, there's going to be a lot of people saying all kinds of things. That's okay. All you can do is act out of the most pure place you can possibly act out of, that you can be aware of, and that's it. And then you can be happy with yourself. Wait, I don't think anyone knows what I'm talking about. Jesse John? What do you mean nobody knows? No, I think I understand what you're saying. I would assume that a simulation would be designed so its participants are never able to discover its true nature. Uh, Maybe, but it doesn't seem to be the case. It's not a secret. It's just that you need to, I guess, develop a advanced enough state to start understanding what it is. Mustafa is saying, I agree. I watched a few of his videos. That's just a show. Yeah. Jesse, I love that. It is just not everyone knows, but is. The cause this not everyone should know by design. I think I understand what you're saying. No one has looked past the digital symbols. I mean, it's kind of hard to decipher exactly what's going on there, combined with all the rest of the stuff that you see on the molecule. What you're talking about, you saw an experience with or without the molecule, Jesse? That's a question. Happiness is an emotion, which seems like a contradiction to nirvana. Yeah, I agree with that. What is the point? Not contradiction, but a thing that can be in nirvana and outside of it. No, nirvana is not based on that feature called happy. Is that sounding more true, Toltec? It's your own emotion driving you to want nirvana, but was the point I was trying to get across. The best thing for everyone to do is to be open to new conversations. I agree with that. Thank you, Borch. We can always learn, and time is fluid, so we must be present and happy with the now. Couldn't agree more. Salty PDX is saying, how did you train yourself not to freak out during molecule trips, since it literally is insane? I don't know. I'm a weird outlier. I never had this weird fear from it. I don't know why. I was always very mesmerized by it and always had a very positive relationship with it. So I'm not really sure what to tell you. I don't know why. So I didn't train myself. It's just how it always was. You are up there, legit smart guy. I learned a lot from you. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Is it Sean? That's the most interesting way of spelling Sean I've ever seen. His last book is literally full of YouTube links to frauds and the same involved BS vaping. Yeah, basically. What's more spectacular, seeing symbols in a laser or leaving your body in remote viewing? I mean, again, depends what for. While on about 1,000 mics of the other molecule, inhale nitrous until everything turns black. You'll see shapes and patterns. Let them come to a fractal point, tiny blocks. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of methods to do all kinds of things. The question is, what is the universal principle behind this? Yeah, I kind of always get scared using the molecule, like I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, it sounds like this is a common thing that people report. I feel we are already everything we've been reaching for. Maybe. Or maybe we still have infinite amounts to grow. Focus on one tiny blocks and you'll see it's made out of matrix looking symbols looking into the numbers. Right. Yeah, there's, again, if we like talking specifics, I can tell you like a lot of crazy things, but each and every one of these threads kind of leads you towards like a good 30-40 minute conversation. Couldn't you lucid dream and then take the molecule in your dream and look at the laser, might find something? That's a cool comment. I like it. I did have in a dream like a full breakthrough one time. Like I smoked it in the dream and I had a full-on NN experience, which was super weird. Because people have reactivations with 5-MeO, but not with NN. I've never heard of that before. Maybe people had it, but I've never heard of that before. And that was wild. So great comment. What is the most presentful form of being? Silence in surroundings, no distraction, and pure focus. Is it more about having a conversation running with yourself? What is considered as more being present? I think ultimately again, and this is where we're kind of like the conversation about nirvana is a little problematic because nobody here has ever experienced it. But if I understand, the what the Buddha kind of taught about it, which again he said very little about the metaphysical, but is that from what I understand from the practice and from everything that I've read about it, is that nirvana is really unique in the fact that it's almost like being outside of existence itself. It seems like when the only thing that, as far as I know, that the Buddha ever said about any of that stuff that is like more supernatural, so to speak, is that when he was asked, "Whoa, yeah, okay," it means it's time to sleep soon. Okay, is when he was asked about. He said that you might want the only thing you should care about is getting out of the house. He called it getting out of the house. So basically achieving nirvana. And when asked about it, he said, well, like, what's out there? What is it like? And he said, it's whatever you want, but that's besides the point. The point is that when you're going to get out and look back at the house, you'll understand why I told you you want to get out of the house. That's the only thing he ever said. Everybody yawned with me. That's awesome. It is contagious. Can you be nobody? Yes, I would say you absolutely can be. But it's not going to be you, it's going to be nobody. Yeah, but I'm assuming you've had an ego death on the molecule. I would imagine it's like that. No, I think ego death is only a very, very small rising up from where you are right now. Ego death, I think, is like in the chain of ascension. I think ego death would be like if you're here, there's maybe a few interesting intermediary states, and then there's ego death right here. I think that when we talk nirvana, we're talking about like infinity and beyond. So nirvana is unplugging. I think that's probably the closest I've heard anybody describe it so simply. So yeah, Chavez, you're right on. That sounds about it. I was learning about the jhana states. The jhana states are very interesting. Cultivate deep focus. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. How much do you feel like the Plato's cave allegory applies to this situation? Well, I think that metaphor applies to across all levels, both in term like in society, in informational spaces, and also in physical spaces. I think it applies basically across the board. Can't it be you too? All encompassing is an experience that can be glanced at a direction. After all, you are glancing, no? So I think there's a glancing, but no you glancing is essentially the state. So it's Alan Watts used to talk about it a lot, which is that, and of course this is not his ideas, they're Buddhist ideas, but essentially there's just looking. There is no one looking. There's just looking. Looking is a thing that is happening. So there's light hitting a physical thing called an eyeball attached to a physical thing called a brain. And all of this is happening in some kind of a space of experience. But the feeling that you are looking is just another content in that space. Does that make sense? So there's actually, you are not looking. There's no I seeing, there's just seeing. Does that make sense? Love life so much. Yeah. So this is my point to you, Toltec. I know I would admit that it is difficult to kind of grapple with because it essentially means let go of everything, the people you love, like this life, everything, let go completely. But according to the Buddha, that's the only thing you should care about. And I know it's hard to entertain, especially from the perspective of a Western world perspective. I found myself watching myself, playing myself on a computer. And I was showing myself that I was playing myself from my real home. I was putting different, it just jumped on me. Putting different game cartridge. Oh, I see. Sense has been made. That's the best line, Danny. I'm gonna save this. This is amazing. This should be a name of some kind of a YouTube channel, honestly. Sense has been made. You looking makes reality kinda. Or no, reality is like, so reality contains that instance of the looking and the feeling that you're you, but the feeling that you're you is this thing. So you can actually collapse it completely very quickly. If you pay attention enough, you will notice it. There's a really known practice that was most popularized in this book called On Having No Head, uh, in which you basically, what you do is you look at an object and then you basically turn the attention back on yourself from the object, or you turn the attention towards where you think you are as you feel yourself to be. When you say I, you look towards that where you think that I is, right? And then you don't ask the question verbally, but you just, so to speak, make the gesture that the question of what is looking would be attached to. So if you would ask yourself, what is looking, instead of asking yourself that conceptually, which immediately implies, what do you mean? Me, this body, this, like I'm right here, right? So instead of asking it conceptually, ask it with a gesture, just with the putting attention back on what you think is looking, and then ask yourself, what is that thing that is actually looking? And don't it the answer doesn't matter. You're not supposed to get some kind of a, it's not like you're gonna come back tomorrow for the chat. It's like, oh, I got the answer. Like, it's not like that. It's you're gonna get the experience that actually, if you do this, like it's you need to do it a few times. You don't have to do it for a long time. So if you do it, it should just work automatically, right? And if it doesn't, don't try and go deeper. Just do again. Just do it again. Do it again. Do it again. It's right on the surface. So that's the funny thing, that it's right on the surface for you to notice, and it's so close that you don't notice, right? So it's so close to you that you can't see it. So basically, you turn the attention again and you go, okay, what is actually seeing this right now? Actually, when I'm looking at myself at the screen, for some reason it makes it easier because something is already being represented as my physical body on the screen. So it's almost like it allows me to disassociate from whatever that is and ask myself, what is the thing that is perceiving this right now? What is actually looking? And then you have a conceptual framework that says, well, it's, there's some kind of a me sits in my brain and it uses the eyes to see the thing. That's a story. This is why I'm saying try and do it without the conceptual framework, just the gesture, silently, do it again and again. It helps to look at a natural object like a tree or something. You can do it with anything though, it doesn't matter. So you look at it, and actually I just noticed this, that it actually really helps to look at yourself on a screen. So you do it again, and then you go, okay, what's looking? What's looking? And then there's gonna eventually something will happen where you all of a sudden gonna realize, oh, wait, this thing you call me is not there. There's nothing there. There's actually no one here that all of this is looking, that all of this is happening to, which is what I said before. There's some traditions like Dzogchen in which they keep repeating this phrase, which is, there's no one here that all of this is happening to. There's no one here that all of this is happening to. And then first, it's kind of like, ooh, mysterious phrase. That's awesome. But it's still, you still feel like a me, right? But then you do it again and again. If you do this for a long time, all of a sudden it dawns on you, like it truly, you experience it, that there's no, there's physical bodies, but there's no me's in that physical body. That's an illusion. That's just kind of like right on the surface. So there's just seeing. There's just instances of seeing, feeling, all of that. And this is just happening in reality. But there's no one that is there that needs protection, that that needs to be defended, and it kind of makes things a little easier. It makes life much easier, but also it's the truth. I'm trying to read through the comments. Building is about making concepts into reality. The you is a concept, yes. That does not make it less real as it output reality. So I agree with that, Danny. The only thing is, it's just a hierarchy of functionality and so I think that there's a function to the feeling of the I. I agree with that. But if you do this often enough, you realize that it actually almost plays no role at all. Like it's more of an illusion, maybe a somewhat useful illusion in some situations, but it's more that than something concrete that does a thing. Because you can do everything, make plans, goal, everything that you do as a human, you can do without feeling like you're you. That's possible. So that makes you ask, what is that thing doing? And I would say mostly all it's doing is making you fearful, separate, argumentative, like all the negative things kind of come attached to this thing that you call I. We have a comment from Twitch. Always welcome it. I don't understand what that means, but thank you for the comment. This is some morning glory stories. Be aware of lasers too strong can hurt you. That is why parameters or strength has been outlined to be limited at a certain energy for the laser for it to not cause that. Yes. The universe is looking. Or there's just looking in the universe. And I'm staring right back at it. Exactly. I will send you an email. I'll record a voice recording of my experience. Sure. Yeah, please. The conundrum is that in order for us being immortal souls, we were never created, we were always here. So what do you think you can do with the code you found? So far, no idea. Okay, Mr. D, so do you think the concept of you can be modified? Sure. Yeah, but not, it won't play a bigger role. It's almost like saying, like if you have 4 circles and a quarter of each circle is missing as to create what seems to be a square in the middle. So you're asking me, can you modify the way that how much of the circles is missing to make the shape in the middle look different? Yes, but it will still be an illusion. It's just a different shaped illusion. I answer your question too quickly. I'm not sure what else to answer. The answer is I don't know. I haven't found any usefulness for it yet. Can a step back include a bigger role? Maybe, but again, there seems to be no need for that. It sounds like you're attaching to the self. What is the end goal to skip reincarnation? You mean from the perspective of the Buddha? Yes. From the perspective of the Buddha is to stop reincarnating. which is nirvana, basically. Spill the tea. Well, I think, ambient glass, what you're picking up on is that this particular question, I've answered it so many times in other lives that, there's not much else that I can say about it. Is that at the moment, still trying to figure out what it is. I think the fact that that's the case, I think it's big enough for now. I think deciphering the code is not in the cards anytime soon. I think that that's going to require us to actually have much more advanced tools than we currently have. So at the moment, my aim is to try and play with these different parameters around the code and see if we can create a measurable and agreeable departure or change in the behavior or the content of the code in some way. And that will give us an in into how we can develop a science around it. I think that's the only plausible way to go about it at the moment. Most people are on autopilot and cannot understand these kinds of things. Maybe, but we have to try and communicate. We are all that is, so we can observe our own existence. I'm not so sure that's true. I've definitely seen some things in the molecule space that are definitely not us. I'm saying this with 100% certainty, that they are not us. Very alien. But again, some people disagree. I disagree with these people. What do I think the universal principle is? Be kind. Have you tried the laser experiment in other surfaces? Think an old music CD. Yeah, it seems that the only thing that makes any difference is magnets. We can discover it now also because so many people see more. That's not without reason, right? I agree. I think you're right. Suppose two timelines overlap in the same place, which seems impossible to us, but it is possible. Yeah, I agree. It is possible. How can you be sure we are not alien? What is alien really? Just what you don't know, maybe. I think that when something is different enough in enough ways, it becomes clear that that is alien. And I don't mean alien in any negative way. It's just very alien to what we are. It's very different. It's so different. So, Terence McKenna used to say that most people, the aliens they entertain, they're very familiar, which is strange. Like, the Greys and even aliens that we, think of like in movies, they still have a body. They kind of have goals that are based on very similar things to us. Like they want to eat something or they want to, more energy. Like these concepts we understand pretty well. And he used to say that a real alien will be really alien. It will be so alien that you'll be like, whoa, like you won't even know how to begin to think about it, right? That's the kinds of things you see in the molecule space. And if you postulate that they're real beings, which they definitely feel like it, even their emotions are made of something else that you've never experienced before. There's no point of context. Like there's not something you can say, well, it's kind of like, it's not like anything. You've never experienced anything like that. I don't even think it's based on space and time. So they're not us. That's what I'm going to put out there. There's definitely somebody else in the room. So now I know it's very common nowadays that people insist like, no, it's just everything is us. It's very, higher self. I'm like, where did we hear this before, right? It's the most self-centered kind of way of seeing things. Ultimately, yes, I think that at the top of this whole thing, somehow everything has to be one by definition. Somehow it all ties. Does that thing have like an awareness that it is this one thing? I don't know. And I don't think anybody can know, right? But I do think, and this is, I don't have a strong logical argument, but I've had enough experience in these spaces and enough interactions with people and really listen carefully to what they're saying. My impression is that what people mean when they say the one or the source or higher self or all of these concepts, it is not what they think it is. So when they say that, they refer to something in their mind's eye that actually is just right a little bit above them in terms of the ultimate picture. Because the ultimate thing, that thing that is up there, that is like the thing that combines everything, I think it is so unspeakable and so unentertainable that you couldn't possibly be referring to it, even if you thought like that's my impression. There's no way it's possible, right? It's so far out there that it is a god to what you believe to be a god. That's how far it is. Okay, so it's I really think that the people are putting a lot of convictions forth, and I wish more people would just say I'm not sure or I don't know. Everybody seems to be so convinced of everything. Um, that's why I stand on these issues. It just seems to me like, that ultimate omega point is not something that is reachable with the kind of state that we're occupying at the moment. And when you start, I think that what makes it clear is that when you enter the molecule space often enough, you realize how weird some things are. Truly, the weirdness is just out of this world, literally. And this is why calling it angels or any of the concepts that we know that has kind of like this embodied element. I think it's I don't know where people are getting that from, but that's to me it just feels silly. And by the way, I am open to the possibility that we are this unified one, like a higher self or whatever you want to call it, like the human one. But there's other ones for sure. I've seen them. Like they're very different than human. They're nothing like human. Nothing like human. If you think that's you at that point, I don't even know. I don't think it's possible that you will encounter that and go, "Oh yeah, yeah, I can see how this is us." I don't think so. Thank you, Miguel. Think about what we do with computers. We accelerate our bandwidth, connecting things, making connections. The universe wishes to know itself. It wants to be compete. It does to complete maybe. It does this by self-reaching. Again, everything I just said. I don't know, maybe. We actually have the scientific data to show where we came from. Really? I'm not aware of that. Thank you so much, by the way, for messaging me back about my paintings and inviting me to this Discord. I'm very excited to hear what you see in my paintings. When doing the experiment, I designed it for this. I appreciate you, brother. Would a hive mind species be able to advance to a higher level of consciousness faster than as individuals, since it has the experience of multiple beings simultaneously? Sounds reasonable. Sounds like the answer would be yes. The code is representing what reality actually is, I think. Configuring, self processing language, consciousness reality interacts with and learns from itself. We are a medium for the interaction. Yeah, I would agree with that. Something advanced enough would appear or as magic or supernatural, and the DMT as a medium for communications. Why not? I mean, what is the force that pushes us towards anything? Intuition. Yeah. Um, I agree with everything you're saying, Mikhail. Ambient Glass saying, hold up, do you think we are not apes currently? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Can I describe the weird? Great question. Nothing like human physicality or mentally. Yeah, like so, and so here's okay. Here's the my best stab at explaining the weirdness. People tend to exaggerate, right? We all do this. So when somebody had an experience of any kind that blew their minds, there is this tendency to try and really push it out, like in a way that will communicate to others that it's like, dude, it was crazy. Oh my God, right? So we learn that whatever people say, take it down a few notches. That's probably what it is, right? Because people exaggerate. So the first thing to say about the weirdness is that I'm not exaggerating. It's so weird that you speechless. You just like it. It begins and ends in places that you don't understand how that can be. It emotes and communicates in a way that is so erratic and coming from directions that you don't understand. So a thought can start from some kind of a fourth dimensional space and then it enters through what you feel is an emotion, and you understand all of this in the space, like you understand all of it, and then it becomes like an emotional impact, and then it pops from some other space and time, and like it's just, first of all, it communicates to you that the structure of what's possible is so beyond what you could ever entertain or watch in the show or anybody telling you. It's so bizarre that when you snap out of it, you go, "Oh my God, I know nothing. I know nothing." This is like all of this like toil that we're involved with. We're trying to understand all these things in our space. It's just a tiny sliver from what is possible in general, and also the grandiosity of it. And then understanding that that space is infinite, and what you just saw is probably just like literally like a tiny bit up. Like you just raised your eyes above the water. That's it. And then you understand that that ocean goes to infinity. And then it kind of gives you perspective of what's possible. So from that place, hearing people saying things with full conviction, people saying things like, yeah, it's us and the creator. I'm like, dude, what? Do you understand how much there is? It's like, what are the chances? Yeah, my brain can't wrap around being so convinced of something that you should know you can't possibly be convinced of. Have you seen something that confirms our consciousness is not connected to all that is? It would be by necessity connected to all that is, but you wouldn't be experiencing it. And if you're not the one experiencing the totality of it, then it's irrelevant to the level in which you're experiencing it. It does feel to me like there's this big trend going around right now of people truly deluding themselves that they have this access towards something they don't. And it's possible to go up and then see extra content from a certain level of awareness and a certain kind of awareness. I agree with all of that. But I think that the fact that you can do that, it very often confuses people to then believe that because they could do that, they all of a sudden can do the whole thing. That to me seems to be completely untenable. It's also not how things work. Like things move in progression. You don't go back, 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 everything. It doesn't go like that. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Let me see. Oh, okay, it's almost 2 a.m. All right, guys. I'm going to have to adjourn. Apologies. I have an early start tomorrow. Peace and love to everyone. I hope this was somewhat coherent. And I mean, we're here every day. I'm here every day, so we can reopen this tomorrow. Sorry to all the questions that I didn't get around to. If you want to follow me across the platforms, it's Danny Goller on TikTok and Instagram, Goller Danny on X, Laser X83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. DANGO Thoughts. If you guys can give the live some likes, that will be very helpful for the algorithms. I appreciate you across all the platforms, TikTok and YouTube and X and Twitch. Thank you guys. And I'm here every single day. I've also added a members program on YouTube. If you want to sign up for that, it includes personal Zoom meetings with me, personal lives in addition to the daily lives, content that is not available to anybody else, also for my personal life. And I'm adding more and more things all the time. I'm also open for suggestions, what you guys think might be something that people would like to see, and will make it worth their while. So I appreciate all of you truly, and I really enjoy the fact that this community is growing, and always have such a good vibe of discussion. And hopefully at some point soon, I don't even know when anymore, I'll be able to do the lives down that late at night. But I do enjoy everybody who show up. I appreciate you, love you, and that's it. See you tomorrow. Peace and love. Ciao.